Millionaire Donald Blake had accepted his painful truth for years. His twin girls Lily and Rosy were born deaf and could not walk, and every doctor in New York told him nothing would ever change. But on that quiet morning, something happened inside his mansion that made his heart shake in a way he had never felt before. A sound he was never supposed to hear, a moment he was never prepared to face, and a secret that a black maid named Monica was hiding without knowing how deeply it would shake his world. As he stood at the doorway, watching something that felt impossible, his hands trembled, his breath slowed, and fear wrapped around his chest like a heavy chain. What he saw that day would not only challenge everything he believed, it would pull him into an emotional storm he never expected, and the truth behind that moment would change his life forever. The morning started in a strange way inside Donald Blake's mansion, the kind of morning that made the whole house feel heavy and quiet, as if something unseen was waiting to happen. The air felt still, and every room looked too neat, too calm, almost like the walls were holding their breath. Donald walked slowly down the long hallway, his shoes soft against the floor, his mind tired from another night of pretending everything was fine. For 2 years he had lived inside this silence, the silence of a man who carried too much pain in his heart. His twin girls, Lily and Rosy, were born deaf and unable to walk, and they had never spoken a single sound since the day they arrived in this world. Every doctor in New York repeated the same painful words: "Nothing can change this. Nothing can be done." Donald tried to accept it, but acceptance never brought peace into his life. Instead, it brought a kind of emptiness that followed him everywhere he went, like a shadow he could never escape. That morning, the emptiness felt different, almost sharper. Something in the air felt wrong, or maybe it felt new, something that did not belong to the usual sadness of the house. Donald could not explain it, but his steps slowed as he reached the hallway that led to the twins' room. The door was half open, and a soft light spilled into the hallway, a warm light that made him stop without taking another step. His hand rested on the wall, and he listened. At first, he heard nothing, only the quiet hum of the air system and the faint movement of someone inside the room. Then he heard a soft sound, a sound so tiny and weak that he almost thought it was his own imagination. He leaned closer, his heart beating slowly, his breath tight inside his chest. The sound came again, not clear, not strong, but real enough to make his body freeze completely. He waited for it again, but the sound did not return. He stepped back slightly, unsure if he wanted to enter the room or run away from it. His legs felt weak as he slowly pushed the door open just a little more. The sight in front of him made his body go still. Inside the room, the maid, Monica, was sitting on the floor beside Lily and Rosy. Monica wore her simple black and white uniform, her hair tied back, her hands gentle as she touched the twins' legs softly. Lily and Rosy were in their small support chairs, their eyes focused only on Monica. They looked calm, almost peaceful, the kind of peace he had not seen on their faces in a long time. Monica was speaking softly, her voice warm, her lips slow, so the girls could watch her face. Donald could not move from the doorway. He watched, silent and confused, as Monica placed her hand lightly on Rosy's arm and said something he could not hear clearly from where he stood. Then the sound came again. A soft breath, a tiny broken sound, a sound that should have been impossible. Donald felt something cold travel through his whole body. He wanted to step forward, but his legs did not move. He did not understand what he was hearing. He only knew that something inside the room was happening without him, something that did not belong to the world he had accepted. He stayed still, watching Monica lean her head slightly toward Lily. She spoke again, calm and slow. Her voice seemed to fill the room with a kind of warmth that made even the air feel softer. Lily blinked slowly, her little fingers twitching on the armrest of her chair. Rosie lifted her eyes toward Monica with the same quiet focus. Donald felt something rise inside him, something he had buried a long time ago, a mixture of fear and hope that shook his heart. He stepped back from the doorway and leaned against the wall, trying to slow his breathing. He did not want to believe what he heard. He did not want to trust his ears. Hope had hurt him before, and he was afraid of it, afraid of expecting something that would break him again. He pressed his hand against his face, closing his eyes for a moment, trying to steady himself. When he opened his eyes again, the room was still the same. Monica continued speaking to the girls, her voice soft, her movements gentle. She did not know he was standing near the door. She did not see the confusion on his face or the fear running through him. She only focused on the two little girls who depended on her gentle presence more than anyone else. Donald watched her for a long time, his mind full of questions that frightened him. Why did the twins respond to her in a way they never responded to him or the nurses? What was she doing differently? Why did the sound come only when she was near them? Nothing made sense, and the more he watched, the more his chest felt tight. A part of him wanted to walk into the room and ask her what she was doing. Another part wanted to close the door and pretend he heard nothing. But neither choice felt right. He stood there, feeling lost, feeling unsure, feeling like the world was shifting under his feet. Finally, he stepped away from the doorway and walked down the hall slowly. His steps were heavy, almost dragging. The house felt different now, as if the walls had heard the same sound he did. He walked into his study and closed the door behind him gently. He sat at his desk, placed his hands on the surface, and stared at nothing. He could still hear the soft, broken sound in his mind, the sound that should not exist. His throat tightened as he whispered to himself, almost afraid of his own voice. "What is happening to my girls?" And deep inside him, he knew that whatever the answer was, it was only the beginning. Donald sat in his study for a long time, his hands resting on the desk, his heart heavy with thoughts he could not understand. The strange sound he heard earlier kept returning to his mind, soft and weak, yet powerful enough to disturb the silence he once depended on. He kept asking himself if he imagined it, if stress was playing tricks on him, or if something real had happened inside the twins' room. The more he tried to push the thought away, the stronger it came back, making his chest feel tight. He stood up slowly and walked toward the window. The sky over New York was cloudy, and the soft gray light filled the mansion with a pale glow. Cars moved far below on the street, small and distant, like tiny pieces of a world he no longer felt part of. He placed his hand on the cold window glass and closed his eyes for a moment. He wanted peace, but peace would not come. Something had changed in the house, and he could not pretend it was nothing. After a while, he left the study and walked through the hallway again. His steps were slow and unsure. When he reached the twins' room, he stopped at the doorway. Monica was still inside, sitting on the floor with her legs folded, her back straight, her face calm. Lily and Rosy were quiet now, their eyes half open, their small hands resting softly on their laps. The room felt warm, almost gentle, a feeling Donald was not used to anymore. He did not enter. Instead, he stood by the wall where she could not see him. He watched her place a blanket over Lily carefully, as if she was handling something delicate and precious. Rosy blinked slowly, her eyes following the movement of Monica's hands. Donald felt a strange pull inside him, a mix of confusion and something close to jealousy. Why did the girls show signs of life with her and not with him? Why did they respond to her voice, her touch, her presence? He was their father, yet he felt like a stranger in their world. Monica adjusted the blanket again and whispered something, her voice soft like a warm breeze. Donald could not hear the words clearly, but he could see how her mouth moved slowly and gently so the girls could watch her. After a moment, Rosie moved her fingers slightly, a tiny movement, but enough to make Donald's breath catch. He pressed his hand against the wall, steadying himself. He waited until Monica stood up and walked toward the closet. Then he stepped back quietly and went down the hallway before she could notice him. He did not know why he was hiding, only that he was not ready to face the questions inside him. Later in the afternoon, Donald sat in the living room with a cup of tea he did not drink. The TV was on, but he was not watching it. His thoughts kept drifting back to that sound, the way the twins' eyes followed Monica, the way the room felt warmer when she was there. He had hired her only to clean, not to take care of his children, yet somehow she had become important to them in ways he could not explain. The nurse, Anna, walked into the living room. She held a small clipboard and looked tired from her morning shift. Donald lifted his eyes slowly and looked at her. Anna spoke softly, trying not to disturb him. "Sir, the girls finished their afternoon therapy session, but they were not focused today. They kept turning their heads toward the door, almost like they were waiting for someone." Donald felt his stomach tighten, waiting for someone. He did not need to ask who they meant. His hands tightened around the cup, and he swallowed with difficulty. Anna cleared her throat and continued. "I noticed something else, sir." They were calmer when Monica passed by the hallway earlier. They turned their eyes toward the sound of her footsteps. Donald lowered his eyes and nodded slowly. He did not trust his voice at that moment. Anna hesitated before speaking again. "Sir, I do not want to overstep, but the girls seem to respond to her in ways we have not seen before. Maybe she has a gentle way with them. Maybe they feel safe with her." He looked up at the nurse sharply. Safe. That word again. He heard it in his mind. The same way it came from Monica's mouth earlier. A child only needs someone who does not give up. The words hit him deeper now, cutting through the walls he built around his heart. He stood up suddenly, surprising Anna, and walked past her without saying anything. His feet carried him toward the playroom, though he did not plan it. When he reached the door, he paused. Monica was inside again, sitting between the girls' support chairs. She was reading a simple children's book, her voice soft and steady. Lily watched her carefully, her eyes moving slowly with each word. Rosie blinked and leaned her head a little to the side, trying to understand the movement of Monica's mouth. Donald stood there, hidden by the door frame, his chest rising and falling slowly. He watched Monica turn the page, her hands gentle, her face focused. She placed her hand lightly on Lily's knee and whispered something. Lily's fingers twitched again, and Donald felt his heart drop into his stomach. He stepped into the room quietly. Monica turned her head and noticed him. She stood up immediately, her hands folded in front of her apron. "Good afternoon, sir," she said softly. Donald nodded, his eyes moving from her to the twins and back again. His throat felt dry, and he could not find the right words. He looked at the girls again, then back at Monica. "I need to talk to you," he said, his voice low and strained. Monica nodded slowly. "Yes, sir." He looked around the room, then stepped closer. "Earlier today, I heard something," he said carefully. "Something I should not have heard." Monica lowered her eyes. She looked unsure, almost nervous, but she remained calm. Donald swallowed hard. "What are you doing with my girls, Monica?" Her eyes lifted slowly to meet his. What she said next would begin changing everything he believed. "I have no one daughter defined." Monica stood very still after Donald asked his question, her hands held together in front of her apron, her eyes soft but worried. The playroom felt quiet, almost too quiet, as if every wall was waiting for her answer. Lily and Rosy looked at her from their support chairs, their little faces calm, their eyes following her slowly, like they trusted her more than anyone in the world. Donald's chest felt tight as he stood there, waiting. He did not know if he was angry, confused, or afraid of what she would say. When Monica finally spoke, her voice was soft. "Sir, I am not doing anything special," she said gently. "I only talk to them. I touch their hands. I try to help them feel safe." Donald's eyebrows pulled together. Safe. That word again. It kept following him, whispering in his mind since morning. He looked at the twins, then back at her. His voice came out lower, almost shaky. "They made a sound," he said slowly. "A sound I have never heard from them before. How could that happen?" Monica looked down for a moment, then lifted her eyes again. "Sometimes children give small signs when they feel seen," she said softly. "Sometimes they try to speak when someone stays close long enough." Donald felt his stomach twist. He remembered all the nurses, all the therapists, all the machines, all the money he spent, and none of it brought even one tiny sound. Yet here stood a maid, someone he barely spoke to, someone hired only to clean floors and fold laundry, and his daughters responded to her as if she carried something he did not understand. He stepped closer and pointed to the chairs where the twins sat. "What did you do today?" he asked. "Step by step, tell me everything you did." Monica nodded slowly. She walked toward Lily first and placed her hand gently on the girl's shoulder. Her touch was soft, almost like she was touching a fragile flower. "This morning, I greeted them," she said quietly. "I said good morning and waited a little so they could watch my mouth move. Then I rubbed lotion on their arms because the air in this house feels dry and their skin gets tight sometimes." Donald listened carefully, every word sinking into his mind. "I sang a little," she continued, "not loudly, but soft and slow, so they could feel the movement through my hands when I touched them. I read a small book to them, and I told them I would not leave the room until they stopped feeling scared." She looked at the twins again, her eyes warm. "That is all I did, sir." Donald stared at her for a long moment. His throat tightened. Something simple, something gentle, something any parent should do, yet he had not done it. He felt the weight of that truth settle on his chest. He did not speak right away. He turned his head toward Lily and Rosy, watching the way their eyes followed Monica every time she moved. It felt like a small knife inside him, a reminder that he had given them comfort in the form of doctors, not love. He sat down slowly on the small chair that stood near the window. His hands shook slightly, so he placed them on his knees to keep them steady. Monica looked unsure if she should continue speaking, so she stayed quiet. The twins blinked calmly, their bodies relaxed in the chairs, their breathing soft and steady. After a moment, Donald lifted his eyes again. "Can you show me?" he said quietly. "Can you show me how you talk to them?" Monica nodded gently. "Of course, sir." She walked toward the twins again and sat on the floor between their chairs, the same way she always did. She folded her legs, rested her hands on her lap, and looked at Lily first. Her voice became softer, almost like a whisper in the wind. "Hi, my baby," she said slowly. "Did you miss me? Come on, sweet girl, look at me." Lily's eyes lifted, finding Monica's face with a slow movement that felt full of effort and trust. Monica smiled. "That's it," she whispered. "You are doing so well." Her voice was warm, almost healing. Donald felt something move inside him, something painful and gentle at the same time. Monica lifted her hand and placed it lightly on Lily's arm, letting the girl feel the vibration of her voice as she spoke again. Then she turned slightly toward Rosy. "Rosy, sweet girl, I am here. Can you see my mouth? You can try if you want to. You can move just a little. I will wait." Rosy blinked slowly, her lips parting the smallest bit. Monica did not rush her. She stayed still, patient, calm. Something in her presence filled the room with a kind of peace Donald had not felt in years. He leaned forward, watching every movement. His heart felt heavy, like it was carrying 2 years of fear and regret. A part of him wanted to ask Monica how she learned to do all this, but another part knew the answer already. She learned by caring, by paying attention, by not giving up. After a long moment, Monica placed her hand gently on Rosy's hand and whispered, "You are safe, baby." Rosy's fingers twitched. Donald saw it, not once, but twice. His breath caught, his hands pressing into his knees. He felt tears build behind his eyes, but he blinked them away quickly. Monica lifted her head and looked at him softly. "Sir, they are trying," she whispered. "They want to connect, but they need someone patient." Donald swallowed hard. His voice came out low. "Why do they respond to you and not the nurses?" Monica hesitated. Then she spoke quietly. "Sir, I grew up watching my mother take care of children no one else had time for. She always said love is not something you say, it is something you show. Maybe they feel that from me." Donald felt that sentence strike him deep. Love is something you show, not something you buy, not something you fear, something you show. He stood slowly, his legs weak. He looked at the twins again, then at Monica. He nodded once, unable to speak. Then he walked out of the room, his mind shaking, his heart heavier than ever. As he walked down the hallway, he whispered to himself, "I have been here, but I have not been present." He knew one thing now. Whatever was happening to his girls, it was only the beginning, and the truth ahead would change everything. The next morning arrived slowly, as if the sun itself was unsure if it should shine inside Donald Blake's mansion. A soft light entered through the tall windows, touching the walls gently. The house felt different again. Not louder, not brighter, but almost awake. Donald stood in the hallway with a strange feeling in his chest, a feeling he had not allowed himself to feel in a long time. It was hope, small and shaky, but real enough to make his steps slow and thoughtful. He walked toward the nursery, his hand brushing the wall as he moved. He stopped at the doorway. Monica was inside, sitting on the floor the same way she always did, her back straight, her hands resting on her lap. Lily and Rosy were awake, their eyes open wider than usual, watching her with slow, careful attention. The morning light touched their faces softly, and the room felt warm. Donald did not enter immediately. He stayed near the doorway and listened. Monica spoke to the girls with her calm, warm voice, moving her lips slowly so they could follow. Lily's little fingers moved, brushing the top of her blanket. Rosy blinked and lifted her head a tiny bit. Donald felt his throat tighten at the sight. Every small movement carried meaning now, and none of it came from the doctors he trusted so much. Monica turned her eyes toward him. "Good morning, sir," she said with a soft smile. Donald stepped inside slowly. "Good morning," he replied. His voice came out rough, like he had not used it enough. He sat down on the chair near the girls' beds and watched Monica continue with her gentle morning routine. It felt strange to sit and observe, but he knew he needed to understand what she was doing and why it mattered so much. She took a small bottle of lotion and rubbed it into the girls' hands and arms, moving slowly, giving them time to feel each touch. She hummed a soft tune, a tune Donald recognized instantly. It was the same lullaby his late wife used to sing, the one she created from her heart. "Where did you learn that?" he asked quietly, his eyes fixed on her hands. Monica paused for a moment. She reached beside her and picked up a small notebook. "I found this behind the shelf in the nursery last week," she said. "I think it belonged to your wife." Donald's breath caught. He took the notebook from her hands and looked at it. The handwriting on the pages made his chest twist. His wife had written small notes, reminders, and songs she wanted for her babies. Near the middle of the book, he found the lullaby Monica was humming. At the top of the page, his wife had written, "For when I am not here, Let them feel love in the sound, even if they cannot hear it. His fingers trembled. He closed the notebook slowly and held it gently against his chest. For a moment, he could not speak. His wife's words felt like a soft hand reaching out of the past, touching him, reminding him of what he lost and what he had forgotten to give. Monica watched him quietly, her face full of respect. "Sir," she said softly, "I only wanted them to know something warm, something that felt like a mother." Donald nodded slowly. He wiped his eyes with the back of his hand and tried to breathe calmly. He looked at the twins again. Lily was staring at Monica, her face calm. Rosy shifted slightly, her lips parting the smallest bit. Donald felt a deep ache in his heart, a mixture of sorrow and something close to relief. He cleared his throat. "Thank you," he said. His voice sounded different, almost gentle. "You brought something back into this house that I thought was gone forever." Monica shook her head slowly. "No, sir," she said. "I only showed them what was already here. Children feel things that adults ignore. They feel love when it is given slowly. They feel safety when someone stays. That is all I did." Donald leaned forward. "Their mother would have loved you," he said softly. "You treat them the way she wrote in this book, like they can feel everything." Monica lowered her eyes. "Thank you, sir," she whispered. A quiet moment passed between them. Outside, a small gust of wind touched the windows. Inside, everything felt gentle and safe. Later that afternoon, Donald returned to the nursery. He found Monica sitting again between the twin girls. She was reading a small children's book, her voice steady and calm. The girls listened, not with their ears, but with their eyes and their hearts, following her every movement. Donald leaned against the wall and watched without speaking. The sight made something inside him shift, something deep that had been closed for too long. When the story ended, Monica put the book aside and touched Lily's hand lightly. "You can try, baby," she whispered. "Just a little sound. I am right here." Lily took a small breath, her lips parting, then closing again. Rosy made a soft breath too, almost like she wanted to copy her sister. Donald felt a tear roll down his cheek, but he did not wipe it. He wanted to remember this moment. Monica noticed the tear, but did not react. She kept her voice steady, soft, round like a warm blanket. "You girls are doing so well," she said. "I am proud of you, my babies." Donald stepped closer. "Can I try?" he asked gently. Monica smiled. "Yes, sir." He knelt beside Rosy and took her small hand in his. "Hi, sweet girl," he whispered. "Daddy is here. You can try if you want." Rosy turned her head slightly, her lips moving. A tiny sound came out, weak and soft, but real. Donald's breath stopped. He covered his mouth with his hand, his eyes shining with tears. Monica touched his shoulder lightly. "She is trying to reach you, sir," she whispered. "She knows your voice." Donald held Rosy's hand tighter. For the first time in 2 years, he felt something new inside him. Not fear, not pain, but hope, gentle and real, like a small light waking up in a dark room. He looked at Monica with a trembling voice. "I want to learn," he said. "Teach me what you do." Monica nodded softly. "I will, sir. We will do it together." And in that quiet moment, Donald Blake understood something he had forgotten for a long time. Healing starts with someone who stays. The sky over New York turned soft and golden as the days passed. And for the first time in a long time, Donald Blake felt something gentle moving through his mansion. The air did not feel heavy anymore. The silence did not feel painful. Every morning sounded different now, not because of noise, but because of life. It was in the way Lily blinked faster when she saw Monica. In the way Rosy lifted her chin a little when Donald entered the room. In the way the walls of the house no longer felt cold. Donald woke up earlier than usual one morning. He sat on the edge of his bed and rubbed his face with his hands, thinking about everything that happened these past days. He still heard the tiny sounds the girls made, sounds he never believed were possible. He still saw Monica sitting patiently beside them, her hands gentle, her voice soft. He felt a deep sense of gratitude growing inside him, something he struggled to put into words. He walked toward the nursery quietly. When he reached the door, he saw Monica already there. She was folding a soft blanket, moving with calm hands. Lily and Rosy were awake, watching her the way flowers follow the sun. Their eyes were brighter now, their bodies less tense, their movements small but full of meaning. Monica turned when she heard Donald's footsteps. "Good morning, sir," she said softly. "Good morning," he replied. He stepped inside and sat near the twins. He looked at Monica for a long moment before speaking. "Monica, I have been thinking," he said slowly. "I have been watching you, listening to you, and trying to understand how you help the girls. The truth is, I still cannot understand it completely." Monica smiled a little, her eyes calm. "Sir, I do not do anything magical," she said gently. "I only stay. I only give love without rushing. Children can feel love even in silence." Donald nodded. He looked at his daughters, then back at her. "I did not know how to stay," he whispered. "I was afraid that staying close would remind me of everything I lost. But you never ran from them. You never hid from their pain." Monica lowered her eyes. "Sir," she said, "when you have lived with pain, you learn how to sit beside someone else's pain without fear. My mother taught me that." Her words touched him deeply. Donald leaned forward, his elbows resting on his knees. He watched Lily move her fingers slowly across the blanket, touching the soft fabric. Rosy lifted her hand the smallest bit, reaching toward Monica's side. Monica took her hand gently, squeezing softly. Donald stood up after a moment and walked toward the window. The garden outside looked brighter than usual. He took a slow breath and turned back to Monica. "There is something I need to tell you," he said. Monica looked confused. "Sir, is something wrong?" she asked. "No," he said, shaking his head. "Not wrong, but important." He walked toward the small table near the wall and picked up a white envelope. "The nurse brought this yesterday," he said. "It is from a special therapy center here in New York." Monica blinked, unsure. "For me, sir." "Yes," Donald replied. "They saw one of the reports the nurse sent them. They think you have a gift with children like Lily and Rosy." Monica looked down slowly. Her hands tightened slightly. "I did not apply anywhere, sir." Donald nodded. "I know, but they found you anyway." Silence filled the room for a moment. Lily and Rosy watched both of them quietly, their eyes moving back and forth as if they felt the tension in the air. Monica held the envelope in her hands but did not open it. She looked uncertain, almost scared. "Sir, I do not know if I should go," she said softly. "The girls are not ready to lose another person." Donald stepped closer. "And are you ready to leave them?" he asked gently. Monica looked at Lily, then at Rosy. Tears filled her eyes slowly. "No, sir," she whispered. "I am not ready. They feel like part of me now." Donald swallowed hard. He felt something warm and painful rise inside him. He took a slow breath and spoke. "If you choose to stay, Monica, I do not want you to stay as just a maid. You have done more for my daughters than any doctor, any nurse, any expert. You brought life back into this house. You helped them try something I thought was impossible. You taught me how to be present. So if you stay, I want you to stay as part of this family." Monica froze, her eyes wide with emotion. "Sir," she whispered, her voice shaking, "I do not know what to say." "You do not need to say anything," Donald said quietly. "Just follow your heart." At that moment, Lily moved her hand again, reaching out. Then Rosy reached too. Their small arms lifted, slow and trembling, but full of meaning. They wanted Monica. They wanted the woman who helped them feel safe. Monica burst into soft tears and knelt down, hugging both girls gently, holding them close. Donald watched the scene with tears in his own eyes. For the first time in years, he felt the house breathe. He felt something inside his chest open, something he thought had died with his wife. Love was still here. Not loud, not perfect, not easy, but real. That afternoon, Donald signed a new agreement. Monica would stay in the mansion as the girls' permanent caregiver and guardian. She would live in the family wing. No more cleaning duties. Only love, learning, and helping the twins grow. Days turned into weeks, and the mansion changed completely. Lily and Rosy made tiny sounds every day, sounds full of effort and courage. Donald learned simple sign language with Monica's help. He sat beside the girls every night, touching their hands, reading slowly, giving them the father they always needed. One warm afternoon, Donald stood in the garden. Monica was pushing the twin girls in their wheelchairs. The girls were smiling softly, their eyes full of trust. The sun touched them gently, and the world around them felt peaceful. Donald whispered to himself, "Thank you, Monica. You gave us life again." Monica looked back and smiled. "Sometimes, sir," she said, "love changes things that pain cannot touch." And as the four of them stayed together in the quiet New York garden, it was clear that the impossible had become real, not through science or money, but through love that refused to leave. Dear viewers, this story shows that love can bring light, even in the darkest places. Monica entered the mansion as a maid, but her gentle heart gave Lily and Rosy a chance to feel safe, to try, and to grow. She reminded Donald that healing does not always come from money or doctors. It sometimes comes from someone who stays close and refuses to give up. This family found life again because one woman cared enough to love without fear. Dear viewers, tell us in the comments where you are watching from, and share what lesson this story taught you. Please like, subscribe, and share this video so more people can feel the emotion in stories like this. And if you want more stories, comment more stories. Here are 3 questions for you to answer in the comments. 1. Who touched your heart the most, Monica, Donald, or the twins? 2. What moment moved you the most in the story? 3. What does this story teach you about love and patience?